an architect and a landscape architect as well, president of HSR. Tim?
Tim Rupert, project architect, involved from the very beginning, community engagement, pre-referendum planning, all the way through project planning as well, through the prosecution. So, you're very much project manager.
Both Tim and I will be totally involved from start to finish in your project, okay? We passed a bunch of things out for you. One is a booklet. That's basically our PowerPoint that we're going to go through. We also gave you some placemats. We were going to have a 7-course dinner come in, but we saw you had pizza, so we canceled it. So there's some good information on all that stuff for you. Again, we're going to spend a good amount of time, going through our presentation. We do encourage you to ask questions or give us some feedback right away when we're talking about something. If you feel comfortable doing that, that would be wonderful, because then we can kind of generate a dialogue, hopefully. If not, that's fine. We'll certainly leave a lot of extra time at the end for questions. Okay?
So a couple, our handouts in front of you. We do have a smaller brochure that we pass out as well, just kind of a snapshot of who we are and what we do as well. But we'll plan on going through here.
Again, you want my pointer?
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
I don't know if that was working. Okay.
Yep.
Again, our company's been in business since 1953. We've got a lot of projects. Our primary work is K-12 education and planning. We have almost 50 people in our office, and I'll get into the disciplines, the different kinds of things we do in a bit here. But we do a lot of K-12 planning educational work, over 350 million or so in the last few years. So it's kind of our bailiwick. It's really what we do. We've got, like I said, about 50 people in our office, and I've been with the company for 37 years. I graduated from the University of Minnesota. Tim's been with us for 6 years now, and has a lot of good experience as well in K-12 planning and educational design. So again, in all of the work we do, by far the majority of it is K-12 education, and we have a pretty good darn track record for successful referendums. Of the last 55 referendums that we've gone through with different districts, we've got about an 86% success rate. So we feel pretty good about that in terms of we feel that the reason we're fairly successful is the process we go through. Engaging with the community is kind of really our strong point, we feel.
So we'll go over a little bit more about ourselves. We are a full discipline firm, so we do a lot of different master planning, a lot of pre-referendum planning. We're a firm advocate of upfront planning, doing it right, taking the time to go through the proper process to get us to end result. So we spend a lot of time up front in facility studies, master planning, strategic communications, long-term facilities planning, of course design architecture, site planning and design, doing all of the components. We also have mechanical, electrical, plumbing in-house. We have engineers in-house. Half of our company is actually engineers, and we feel that's a huge asset to what we bring to the table, really because we can bring the experts in from day one. We bring them a lot of times to the community, to events. They can ask questions directly to the engineers, and being on staff, they're routinely part of the process really from day one.
Yep, and we can respond much quicker rather than to have to go find our consultant who might be in Minneapolis or Madison. We're right in the same office, so we have a much more quick response time for that.
Sustainable design and engineering, really we take a course that's just part of our proper planning. We do that inherently. Cost estimating and scheduling, interior design. We stay involved throughout all of the construction as well, so construction administration, we're very hands-on, and then any historic preservation. Down the bottom, we do a lot of master planning for different, this is for technical college, that we're part of an $80 million referendum to implement a master plan for the entire campus. We do see a lot of bleed over from our higher education into our K-12. We like to blur those boundaries a little bit. And what we're seeing happen in higher education, we bring to a K-12 as well. So a little bit more about who we are, what we do. Here's our total team. We are very much a team, and we want to bring that team atmosphere to everything we do. So bulk of who we are is we have 10 registered architects, interior design, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, as well as interior design, construction administration, really bring every aspect to the project that will be for complete. Here's the project team, our mug shots on here. What we propose, Brad and myself will be the primary points of contact really from start to finish. That's really by design, and we want to be very involved and hands-on. We like to be involved at the very early stages, when it's just a napkin sketch, all the way through construction administration, all the way through the end of the project. And we definitely pride ourselves on that. And then we bring in our team for their respective disciplines as well. So quite a few of our team members really do specialize in K-12, and basically this is our studio that we specialize in this area. A little bit more on this also in your book, a little bit more of our background here. The two consultants that we are proposing to bring on to our project team, point of beginning for civil engineering, we do not have civil engineering in-house, so we work routinely with point of beginning. I understand you have some reference with them as well. The majority of our projects we do partner with them. Also, Ari Smith, we bring out for structural engineering. They're a firm that we also routinely do a lot of work with and have good success with both of them. A little bit of organizational chart. Brad and myself stay very involved, and basically we have the entire team, and we work hand in hand with the team to make a successful project.
Maybe I'll talk a little bit about this slide. These are representative of the different school districts we work for in the Midwest. You can see most of them are in Wisconsin. We do get into Minnesota a tad, when more specifically down kind of in southeastern Minnesota, closer to us, when we're kind of asked to come over there. We try not to infringe on our neighbors too much, because some other firms get not so happy about that. So we try to stay close to home, but we do travel a long way. As you can see, we know the Mississippi River pretty well in the St. Croix. And again, some of the key districts that are more similar to yours that we're working for are Eau Claire and La Crosse, of course. We're doing work right now in Marshfield School District. We're working on a pre-referendum plan there now. We're doing work in Sparta routinely. We're doing a large elementary school there now. Holman, of course, we do a lot of work there. We're doing a new auditorium there now for their high school. And we've done several projects in Holman. Let's see what other ones am I forgetting.
Stevens Point,
Yep,
we're
Stevens
very
Point.
involved throughout Stevens Point, from really early stages all the way throughout the entire process here as well.
Mhm.
And we'll highlight some of those other projects here. And then we also do a lot of master planning for other facilities, for technical colleges, so WTC, Western Wisconsin Technical College, WITC, we're the architect on demand, Southwest Technical College. So we do a lot of master planning for those different parties as well, as well as universities. We work for UWL, with our architect on call as well. So we do a lot of master planning for the university. So we'll go over a couple studies here of some projects that are recent and applicable. So Sparta School District, we've been working with them for about 2.5 years now. Helped them all the way through from early stages all the way through referendum. Really led the community engagement aspect. They had space shortages within the district, and we took basically a comprehensive look at all of their facilities. Looked at ways of consolidating some of their facilities, become more efficient through the planning process. Also looked at the financial impact of what the planning process would bring. Looked a lot at educational efficiencies of how they could pick up efficiencies. We ended up consolidating some of their resources into a larger facility in this case. Ended up going through a very extensive kind of community engagement process as well as a survey process, which really led us to the end result. It was a really good, successful project, and they're about halfway through construction right now of the main project, which is a new elementary school.
The referendum passed fairly comfortably there. Again, but it was a lot of, roll up your sleeves kind of work that we were doing with the community.
Sparta, or Hellman School District, we're master plan here is showing for the high school facility. They are experiencing a lot of growth within their district. It's one of the areas in the cross area that growth is definitely happening. So we wanted to not only plan for the current facility expansion of the gym and auditorium, but also long range. We know that they're going to continue to have enrollment upticks, and we wanted to make sure that their site can handle it. They also had some needs for athletic fields, and we wanted to make sure that when we plan those athletic fields, that they were really looking at a comprehensive approach to all those facilities and really meeting their long-term needs of the district itself. We're currently under construction for the gym and auditorium. We just completed a master plan expanding their district office as part of this component as well. And then we're in planning stages for a new middle school there on the elementary site that we built going back in 2010. So we've had a long-term relationship with the district, has quite a few similarities to here, just with the experience of the growth as well. Some more master planning type conversations. Dodgeville School District, we've been involved with this district also for probably 15,
18 years.
And you'll see that kind of as a repeated trend where we tend to really have a long-term relationship with a lot of school districts that we work with. A lot of it is very much incremental and the current project, but then it rolls into kind of the next phase of projects and really try to implement the master planning. At Dodgeville School District, the first phase of that project was actually a secure entry.
Yep.
And then that secure entry went into more of an infrastructure focused project where we ended up redoing all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and in the process building this additional front, which was a new library to really house and organize the entire facility for $20 million. And 2 years later, we went back to referendum to complete the master plan and build the auditorium and the gym. And really grow into that. So we found that in this community in particular, success bred more success.
And I'll add too that a lot of the districts we work with, we really get to know the public a lot. A lot of them will know by first name. And of course in Dodgeville, we know many of them by their first name, having been there so long. And that's really an important piece, I think, to how we work and what we do. It's been very beneficial to be able to get to know the folks. And again, I'll also mention, many of the schools we've done, the school districts we work for, we've done multiple projects. So some of these, we've done projects in the 90s, come back in the early 2000s, do another one, and then even in the teens. We really like that because it's, not only do we know a lot of the folks already, but it just shows that they kind of feel good about what we do.
So some of the images very much focused on collaboration type spaces, 21st century learning, very much taking a 1960s era facility and bringing it into the 21st century. So we basically did a complete renovation of the existing facility. When this was all said and done, one of the best compliments that we got was one of the community members thought she was in the new addition and she was in the existing part of it. We were able to blur the boundaries between existing and new and a more secure the entire facility. School District of La Crosse. We've been working with the school district for probably a couple decades now. Went through a lot of different facilities planning, a lot of different master planning for the district. We're constantly kind of master planning a lot of the facilities within the school district. Here's having some more recent projects within the district. Eau Claire Area School District, we've been working with for about 4 years now, 3.5, 4 years. We were part of their referendum planning to really gear them up for the projects. They were doing a lot of infrastructure type improvements within the overall district. They have 22 facilities within the district. We've now worked on 14 of them in the last 3 years. So we just did the third phase of the planning process. A lot of it was focusing on a lot of the nuts and bolts of the facility, roofs and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, also basic needs of security and entryways, and taking a lot of facilities that just were expanded and how to really make those expansions and a lot of the planning way the more strategic.
This is Oakland Memorial in addition. And of all of the schools we work on, probably half of them are new schools, half of them are addition, remodel, fix-up kinds of projects at school districts too. So we're very, very used to working on those types of upgrades as well.
Energy efficiency is a big part of this as well. School District of Marshfield, we completed a facility study for Marshfield, studying all their different facilities, and now we're basically going to be kicking off pre-referendum planning and really leading the community engagement within the district. The main focus here is just really updating their facilities.
The high school.
The high school in particular. They have some pretty significant needs at high school, and be able to communicate that to the greater.
But in the meantime, as we're working on the referendum there, they've asked us to help them with some upgrades at the middle school, which is kind of they want to try to get this work done this summer, so we're really focused on that as well. So we've got 2 things going there at Marshall right now.
So again, they have 15 different facilities within their district. So studying, very much taking a comprehensive approach to all their facilities and looking at them individually, but then holistically as the greater whole as well. They have some athletic needs within the high school, and just show some renderings, some conceptual images of what we're looking at for expansions at high school. Also, entry and making a more welcoming commons entry space to the 1960s portion of the building. Having more flexible learning spaces within here and really utilizing space and how they subdivide space.
Stevens Point here.
Yeah. So Stevens Point, part of the planning process.
Yeah, again, work with a company who's really spearheaded the referendum piece on this project. Nexus Company, and we've got some significant upgrades at the high school, Spanish, with the cafeteria commons, some of those kinds of spaces, and we've really done a lot of work for many different elementaries and middle schools throughout the district. Upgrades, and a lot of entry upgrades, a lot of just different kinds of upgrades, some additions, lots of different things going on there. That's Stevens Point. Some more Stevens Point renderings, some of the renderings and images that we created. This is in Iowa. We do get down to Iowa a little bit here. And this is in Independence, almost in the middle of Iowa. And there, they had failed 5 referendums previous to us coming on board with different companies. I think they actually used 2 or 3 different companies to fail those 5 referendums. And we came in and really tried to take a different approach than what had been done before. Tried to really engage with the community. We got to know a lot of people down there. And we were able to pass a $28 million project in one crack, one shot, and significantly. It was a significant victory for the district there. And it's a new high school, middle school, junior high, about 130,000 square feet of a building. And it's a tremendous facility. Everybody's ecstatic down there. They got something they've been dreaming about for a long time. And now, actually, they called us the other day and want us to come down and help them with some elementary work now. We're going to look at there are 2 elementary schools, analyze them, and study the potential for additions, some upgrades to them, or a new facility. Okay?
So when we built this facility, we were master planning for elementary, knowing that they had needs outside of the current funding source. And they had an opportunity to purchase property at that point, so we master planned the site
Yeah.
to really account for this next level of conversation.
We learned a lot in the early stages of the discussions there of why the things didn't pass, and it just turns out folks weren't being listened to. And we came up with lots of different ideas, tested them out with the community, and kind of honed in on a few key components that were critical to getting folks feeling good about what's going on there in terms of the planning, and are we being heard, and what are good solutions, what are not good solutions. And then the master planning piece of a 92-acre site that's right next to one of their elementary schools made a lot of sense. And once we did the master planning, it just kind of kicked off from there, and it's been a great relationship. Did an auditorium down there, some large gyms. Wrestling's kind of the thing in Iowa, I guess, okay? So we had to make the gym work for wrestling more than anything else. And yeah, they love it. We get calls. I get pictures from some of the board members routinely when they have an event in the auditorium. And they love it, you know? And we love to hear that they love it. That's really important for us.
So you'll see in the comments, the main entry area, we utilize daylighting. Really had a pretty large footprint for the facility, and we wanted to bring natural light into the center part. So the entire spine, what we call Main Street, was really daylit from above, has nice diffused lighting really throughout that space, and really made that space a lot more active. So there was a little bit of master planning that we did for W school in La Crosse. So this was very much a phased plan, basically Vision 2020 that is now implemented throughout all this. A lot of these were additions and renovations to the current campus, and just kind of going through the planning process. Total is $80 million of work through the campus, and the bulk of it was the additions and renovations. And some images. We did one facility in particular that was integrated tech, that we really highlighted a lot of the building systems within there, really used the building itself as an educational tool, and really wanted to highlight a lot of the things going on within the facility. So a little bit about the process going forward here that we propose. A lot of it has to do with design and a lot of the attributes of that. So adaptive design, interactive design, collaborative, flexible and sustainable. But it really boils down to just proper planning and really listening throughout the entire process. We want to listen as much as we present or talk and design. We want this to be very much hands-on for everybody involved throughout this entire planning process. So we do a lot of information gathering. We gather a lot of input from all different stakeholders. We want to listen to not only the students and staff, the community, business leaders, boards, administrations. We want to get as much input as we can throughout all stages of the planning process. We really have these discussions to be able to really go forward with final master plan.
And the reason we do that is to try to come up with solutions that are meaningful to the community. We can spend all day coming up with ideas what we think you should do, but we really think it's important to get that input to get the community to help us design your facilities. And now we've got the expertise certainly to kind of tell you what we think you should do, but we really think it's important to get that feedback and develop that relationship with the community to earn their trust and to gain their support, basically. Is kind of what it comes down to.
So we'll do a lot of analyzing the facilities, through life cycle analysis, through student occupancy, maximum versus really optimal rate capacities for each of the facilities, both short-term, long-term trajectories within there. Solar analysis for daylighting within the facilities. So we do very much take a comprehensive approach to all of this planning. traffic patterns, safe routes to school, making sure that the site works the way that we want it to work. Just daylighting, we mentioned, we want to encourage as much jailing as we can into the different facilities for a lot of different reasons, and throughout the entire facility. Really looking at each of the individual spaces more critically, looking at each grade level individually, and looking at efficiencies within each grade level as well. Really focusing on not only formal learning spaces, but informal learning spaces, group learning, small groups, collaboration areas, 21st century technology is integrated really throughout the entire facility.
Trying to think of using every square inch of the building for educational purposes rather than just create hallways. We always like to think, try to think of the word school, we normally think of it as a noun, but we try to think of it in a little different terms. Think of it as a verb once, and how that kind of transforms your thought process on what you think a school could be. If you think of it as a verb, it maybe changes some things in your mind a little bit.
So to show how we're utilizing the entire facility for learning spaces, and not utilizing hallways for breakout spaces, and utilizing spaces that you wouldn't otherwise think of for academic purposes, and just becoming more efficient through that.
How kids and teachers can collaborate in more comfortable informal settings as well as more formal settings.
We definitely get very involved with furniture planning as well. Furniture really helps outfit these type of spaces, and we want to be very strategic on how the furniture can interact with the overall space as well. Transitional spaces between here. So here we did a living wall for one of those projects where we actually had focusing on sustainability here, and really wanted to highlight some of those features within there in a very visual way. The way that we use finishes and textures throughout here to create
Softens the space, smells, all of those things, bringing the inside out or outside in makes a difference.
some more interactive design, how we utilize the spaces. This is another facility, this is student center for UWL that was recently completed. Really using the finishes throughout the entire warm textures to really have a more welcoming experience. A little more about the overall process. And this is kind of coming in with some conversations with Nick, but we really wanted to fine tune the process, and as we get to know you guys more, we'll continue to fine tune and refine this process. But really we want to lay it out into incremental stages. We're very much kind of making sure that we always have different stages that we go through, making sure that we have comfortable timelines associated with all the different processes, make sure that we can really do it right for everything involved. So we like to break it into different groups, master planning, community task force, to really define the criteria, community engagement, and then really go through a survey type of process, which then you guys went through a similar, and then evaluate, communicate those results, and then move into referendum campaign. So we tend to focus a lot of energy on the upfront work, really to get that, get the options and get that refinement up front. And what we find is then the referendum campaign is really just informational at that point. Really, that's almost the easiest stage of the process. So a lot of different stakeholders involved throughout the entire process, and we want to make sure that everybody has a part throughout the entire process. Is the big part of it.
And these little diagrams that we do are meant for starting purposes. This is kind of where we can start. We can tweak these diagrams and organizational charts as we need to make sure we're covering all the bases that you guys feel are important.
So there's more of a community task force or focus group that we propose. We lead those exercises and really have that input from really day one. We do a lot of exercises and different priority type of exercises to have the community and really all stakeholders evolve the process and really be a part of it from the very beginning. So whether it's a posted exercise or different priority type of exercises, we really want as many voices to be heard in a very strategic type of way.
Yeah, and We really spearhead facilitating these. We certainly encourage any involvement in the facilitation from all of you or any of you. But, you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of meetings to go do with a group like this, and we expect a lot out of those folks. And we don't want to make it boring, okay? We want to make it kind of fun for them, and it needs to be exciting, and we want them to come to the meeting thinking they're going to have some fun and learn some things and participate, and that's really what we're focused on. The solutions, once we are able to achieve all that, those solutions are just going to come to us naturally, and through all of the guidance that we can give and all the expertise that would be in that group. So trying to make it fun is very important to us, so we keep them engaged throughout the process and throughout the term of the process as well. The last thing we want to do is have people think, oh, we got another meeting to go to tonight, darn. Okay, we don't want that.
So we look a lot at short-term, long-term type recommendations, the master plan that we touched on, knowing that whatever investment we do make is a very much a long-term type investment. And we want to think in those type of terms. So even if we can't achieve all the scope, to set up that scope for long-term use. So we show this overall kind of path of what we're proposing to go through. As we kind of continue through this, really focusing on overall teamwork, really focusing on the process, being really driven from the community, really from start to finish. Ultimately, this is for the community, so we want them to be involved through the entire process. Leading this through a data-focused type of way. We do a lot of times go through these exercises, but we use data and different surveys to really inform that process as we keep going. And these overall tips. As we keep going through, Bruce mentioned of the past 52 referendums, 44 of them were successful. So we do invest a lot heavily in pre-referendum planning and community engagement. And we do definitely pride ourselves on that.
Mm-hmm. And of some of those 52 referendums, some of the districts had referendums by previous architects perhaps that hadn't passed. So again, we like to think we can kind of come in and clean things up sometimes.
And it fundamentally just comes down to doing good planning, going through a realistic process with the community, and just going through it in a strategic way. We also spend a lot of time and effort on communication. So we do have a full-time graphics person and marketing person within our office as well. That we do handle all of the pre-referendum type planning, all the brochures, all the different components that will be required to really the informational campaign. We want to be able to be very concise in what we put out in the community, and we're part of that process.
Yeah. And every project will sit with the committee or group and analyze what are the best ways to get this information to the public, and really strategize and think about those things very specifically and come up with some creative. They're not always the same, just like our buildings. None of them are the same, but we don't cookie cutter anything, so we really try to customize it to the communities and the districts we're working in.
We've even brought community input into this type of planning as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we'll utilize local printers to give even the local overall proposed timeline of what we're looking at. So we always do tend to work backwards. And in the planning conversations, we usually start with a potential end goal, knowing that that end goal may change or adapt as we keep going throughout the planning process. We want to make sure that we have maybe an end goal in mind, even though we know that it may or may not even happen. We want to have enough time for each of the different steps as we keep going throughout the planning process. And that's really the goal. What we do find is all too often, while we show the nice little neat road, there's a lot of detours along the way. And we want to be aware of those potential detours and be able to react to this road. So this is kind of the overall planning concept for where we're at today. We'll really dive into master planning. Really, communication is the first step. Master plan is a critical part of that. So the next 3 months, January through March, really through the master planning. We also have kickoff a core team planning and really have that be an oversight for the entire planning process. have strategic focus groups within that to really develop options as we continue that development with that. So we propose that starts in February of April. Obviously, we'll want to cost those options as we keep going throughout the entire planning process. Do see a lot of value in going through a community survey type of process and really getting strategic feedback as we continue to go through that planning. And that really drives that survey, really having that be the data that we utilize to really decide on if we go or not go and for what big key areas. So we do really feel that the community focus groups, one of their main tasks are usually developing that survey with administration. And then we have kind of the no-go timeframe, that if we're going to go forward and move to the next stage, which not, we reevaluate and go from there. We're proposing that to be end of July timeframe, and then basically move into for planning, where you adopt a resolution by 8/25, and then an educational campaign at that stage. Still very schematic. We spend a lot of time on scheduling the process to make sure that we're taking the proper steps, but a lot of times these change as we continue.
Yeah, and they overlap probably more, okay? But sometimes they don't want to maybe, or it might feel appropriate where they don't need to get that deep, and that's fine with us, okay? We just want to be able to give them the ability to engage as much as possible, as much as they want to. And hopefully, throughout the facilitation of our meetings, they'll I think, 9 times out of 10, they do kind of get into the deepness with us on those specific items. And we'll line item out, a lot of different things, a lot of different features of each school and what needs to be done where, all those things. But if they don't feel comfortable getting that in depth, that's fine. We'll just continue to keep them up to date on things. And we've had a couple instances too, where the community task force doesn't feel like they want to be the ones that give the recommendation to the school board. We're not afraid to take that on by any means, but we've seen more success where it comes from a community group, a recommendation to the board, and we're right with the board. We're right alongside the community task force, I should say, when they do that. We're not leaving them on a limb. Okay?
Mr. President. Rob. So the community task force, certainly it's easier to get parents and staff to participate, but of your voting public, 75%, if you will, are non-staff, non-parents.
Right.
How do you get those folks, that demographic, to participate?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it has to do with going out to them. We can get them involved. It's not just them showing up to facilities meetings, but a lot of times going out to them in strategic opportunities and making that outreach. We find tends to go a long ways. Sometimes individually we meet with certain key stakeholders within the community to get that type of input as well. So there's a lot of different avenues. If they aren't able to maybe see some of the facilities in person, we've done 3D walkthroughs or videos of the different facilities. They can see some of the needs as well. So we do want to definitely reach out to that key demographic as we continue the planning process. It is always, I'd say, a challenge to make sure that they are involved and very strategically involved throughout it. And that's why we do definitely put a lot of weight into the survey to get really all input throughout that.
I'll give you a couple of good examples too, Rob. We're working in Phillips right now, and there we've been able to have several meetings at a variety of different times where we can gain more public people to join us. We've had meetings on Sundays, we've had meetings on Saturdays, early morning or late evening, or afternoons, just to early on generate some interest. And again, that's been very successful. Also in Independence, Iowa, we felt it was very important to meet with, there was some negativity down there, as you can imagine, with failing 5 referendums in a row. We felt it was important to meet with some specific individually. So we did that. We spent some good time really one-on-one with some people, and and small group settings, and folks that were negative, quite honestly, early on in the stages of several referendums. And after we spent some good time with them, they felt, and we actually incorporated some of their ideas into the design and planning. And they were valuable ideas because it just made it better. By the time we were done, we had a lot of those folks that joined the community group, task force, and they turned into being very proactive, positive folks for the community and the district. And actually, some of them stepped up and donated some money, significant money. They had $5 million in donations, basically, after all of those, some of those personal invitation meetings. And so it just, again, connecting with people and getting everybody to feel good about some things was important.
We've offered food in the past, now it seems to drive a greater crowd as well.
Food, yeah.
How long would you anticipate being in the buildings, and who from your firm would go into each of the buildings to do the needs assessment?
The needs assessment.
Yeah.
It'll be us, Tim and I, along with our engineering staff. So there'll be 4 or 5 others along with us. We probably spend a good day at each building, I'm gonna guess, maybe half a day at some of them. We want to be fairly efficient with that, but getting to know your buildings is important because we're gonna get a lot of good questions from the public. So we need to know your buildings by like the back of our hand. So we're gonna spend whatever it takes to get to know your buildings.
We also want to see them in operation, so we want to see them, we want to see the morning drop off, we want to see the pickup at the end of the day, we want to see the lunch periods of any congestion points, so we want to see them in action. A lot of times when we bring our engineers through, perfect time is Christmas break because there's no kiddos around, and then we can poke our heads up in the ceiling and really do some more investigative.
So Tim and I might be there, and we might bring Lee too, but Tim and I would be there maybe twice at each building. Once when it's occupied, seeing all the commotion, and then another one when it's empty, so our engineers can think. Okay, our engineers sometimes can't think with crowds.
Right, well, we've got, 6 buildings that we're talking about here.
Yep.
That would be included here. A couple have capacities between 500, or in the 500, 550 range. And then we have a couple that are right now currently being utilized by less than
Yep.
300. So,
And we feel very comfortable, diving into all those
Okay.
conversations.
Let me throw one more thought out for you guys. I know we have some questions we gotta make sure we get them all. But as we were developing our team, putting our team together, even though we do have engineers in our office, and we utilize them a lot for a lot of projects, we have sometimes in the past utilized outside engineering staff, outside engineering consultants, if you will, to either do a project with us or tag team with our engineers in a project. And, we won't rule that out. If that's something you would be desirable for your project, we'd be more than happy to do that. So just so you know.
If there is some firm or entity that has a lot of knowledge of your facilities, you feel very comfortable with them, we do partner with entities like that if
Yep.
it's advisable, and everybody agrees to it.
And I'll give, again, sometimes 2 pairs of eyes are better than 1. So, in my mind, a tag team approach makes some degree of sense in my mind. I'll give you a project we did in St. Croix Falls. I got to know a good friend of mine now, Randy Christensen from St. Croix Falls, who's an engineer with KFI. And Randy obviously was living in St. Croix Falls, wanted to be a part of the project. So we said, yeah, by all means, Randy, let's bring you on as part of our team. And it was a tremendous experience, and I got to know Randy pretty well. He's a tremendous guy.
Mr. President.
If
yes,
that's-
Bob.
I just had a question. It looks
Sure.
like you recently passed a referendum in Stevens Point, and you got 17 buildings. How many of those elementary schools are you have projects in? Are they renovations, maintenance?
How many elementary schools?
Yeah, just a little description where your elementary stuff
Yep.
you're doing in Stevens
Pretty
Point.
much every one. Okay, and I can't even remember how many elementaries, there's a lot of them. And it's, you know, that whole project is spread out over several years, a few years, okay? So we did a batch last year, and now we're doing another batch of them, and then later this summer, we're gonna do another batch for next year's construction. And, you know, Rob probably knows somewhat about that project. But yeah, it's a big handful of elementary schools, and we're doing anything from just upgrading some finishes in some of them, to maybe some minor wall changes, to more significant additions, maybe reconfiguring their entrances for safe and security. Sometimes we're adding a gymnasium to them, so it's a variety of work at the elementary schools.
And it's really taking that comprehensive approach to all the facilities, making an entire community feel good about the planning process. So that's why we did spread out a lot of work between a lot of different facilities.
Yep.
We see that pretty
So was it one referendum or three?
It was one referendum.
Well, there was two,
components, yeah.
but some of it was capital improvement stuff, and then some of it was more building things related to that.
Was there separate questions on the referendum, or?
There were, let me see, there was, I think, one question on each referendum, if I remember correctly. But again, more than one referendum happened there.
And did the second referendum pass by more than the first, or was it just?
I don't know the numbers. I
Okay.
don't remember the numbers.
But it's been a few years now since that was all passed.
Yeah, it's been a few years, yeah.
And did you do the pre-referendum stuff on that?
We worked with a little bit on that. We did all the graphics, of course, and the Nexus crew was certainly heavily involved in the pre-referendum pieces. We were more graphic and design oriented on that project for that, yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Rob.
so engineers work at the discretion of the architect. Existing facilities, of course, are quite a bit tougher than greenfield facilities. From a project development standpoint, even at this point, how do you go about ensuring minimal change orders?
It's all about quality. Well, again, as Tim said earlier, the upfront work is critical. We need to make sure everybody's on the same page on what you need and what we're gonna build and remodel for you. Once we get that defined clearly, then it's all about the construction documents. Making sure we spend quality time getting good quality construction documents to make sure that we're leaving nothing to the imagination to the bidders, to the contractors that are going to bid it. We want to detail as much as we possibly can, and we think that's critical. We know it's critical, and we usually see better quality bids because of that, because we're not leaving something to the imagination. We're drawing pretty much everything. We don't want contractors to say, well, I really don't know what they need there or want there or mean with that drawing, so I'm just going to put $10,000 in there for that item, where if we draw it correctly, it might be only $5,000. So we see ourselves getting better bids and then better quality as well.
And because because they're in-house, we're used to working with that format. We're all on the same software platform. We have a good working relationship with all those engineers, which definitely plays out in a better quality product. We also utilize technology in a strategic way, building information modeling, BIM. We strategize. We've done this all three-dimensionally, then we look for potential clash detections long before it ever gets into construction or even in that phase. We do different milestones to make sure that we have coordinated sets of documents, because really we put a lot of pride in the documents we put together, and having it clear and concise when we get into construction is a big part of what we do.
We routinely, in the bids we get, we just bid, what was that project? Lanesboro Schools, and the bids came in on $8 million almost within, tens of thousands, just a few $1,000s. The top two bids were within like a few $1,000s of each other. And that tells us that the drawings are good because the contractors are seeing everything the same. There's no guesswork there. And we routinely get really close bids because of that. We don't have bids at $12 million and another one at $6 million. And that's really important. And we often get compliments from contractors after a project is bid out, even from the contractors that don't get the bid. They'll tell us, write a note to us and say, the drawings were spectacular. We appreciate bidding your projects. And we love to hear that, because that really is just money in our clients' pockets, really, when it gets right down to it.
It also makes for a more streamlined construction process. You know, time is money on site. We want to make sure that everybody on site is very efficient, that we minimize any potential changes throughout design and construction. So we want to be very strategic on what we put on the streets. And if there ever is an error or omission, you know, we're problem solving to really go through all that planning process. And we do accept that risk as well.
You guys have got a lot of good questions, tremendous questions.
I'm guessing that before you were architects, you literally were out there putting up structures and
Okay.
I can't think of the right word. Hammering out the.
Yeah.
And
Pounding
because
nails.
then you're aware of, oh, you know what, there's a 3-inch negative space here, and so, or this vent has to
Yeah.
be dropped down or covered, or you're gonna bump your head, or, so you see and feel it in a specific way rather than you went to architecture school.
Right,
Absolutely.
that's a great point, I'm glad you brought that up.
I can hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear, that's good to hear too.
The first 3 years I was actually an architect, I was on the job site. And
Yep.
firsthand, some of the tough things that they deal with on the job site.
Mhm.
And how to be better because of it.
I'm a mason by trade, so, along with a dairy farm. But
Good combination.
don't hold that against me.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
And look forward to your decisions, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Yep.